Good morning and welcome to the June 10th episode of MSP Dispatch. I'm Ray Orsini, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Tony Francisco. Tony, how you doing today, brother?
Excellent, Ray. Excellent. It was so nice seeing you at the Orlando event this week.
That was really nice. I appreciate you taking the truck out there. I know you had a good bit of traffic, but it was nice to do it in person. And for those listening, I apologize for my voice. IT Nation Secure was great. It was fun, and you can tell I went from baritone Kermit to I don't even know what this is. This is just
Post-concert Ray.
there you go,
Awesome.
post concert Ray. But we got a lot of news to bring to you, Tony. Why don't we get into it?
Straight from zdnet.com, we have the NSA and FBI warning us. Hackers are using flaws to target VPNs and network devices. The US is warning that hackers working from China have been exploiting publicly known flaws in network devices as part of a broader attack to steal and manipulate network traffic. The National Security Agency, NSA, and FBI, and CISA have listed 16 flaws in network devices software from 10 brands, including Cisco, Fortinet, Netgear, MikroTik, Pulse Secure, and Citrix that were publicly disclosed between 2018 and 2021. Most of the flaws are rated as critical. Since 2020, the PRC state-sponsored cyber actors have conducted widespread campaigns to rapidly exploit publicly identified security vulnerabilities, says the FBI. This technique has allowed actors to gain access to the victims' accounts publicly, using publicly available exploit code against virtual private network services or public-facing applications without using their own distinctive or identifying malware, so long as the actors have acted before the victim organizations have updated their systems. Ray, sponsored hackers are hacking known vulnerabilities in extraordinarily popular network devices. We know many people and organizations with Cisco, Fortinet, Netgear device in the network. Do you see any warning that comes straight from the FBI or NSA as serious as I do? I think this is an enormous issue, but apparently it's been around for a while. So what are your thoughts on this?
So I want to give a MSP Dispatch exclusive. Water is wet. Bad guys are bad. I see we do these stories because we find them important, right? Like the goal is get the information out there, understand who the threat actors are. We heard on the second day keynote at IT Insecure talking about the FBI's investigation of the Queen of Cuba, and it was all about understanding you have inside threat actors. It's about identifying them. So once you identify them, that's when the real action can take place. The remediation or whatever you need to do. And so understanding that state-sponsored actors are going after these modes like VPNs and other methods, it's important to know because then you can start directing your attention there. Makes absolute sense. Absolutely, they can. This is no different when they were trying to hitch onto the underwater cables that cross the Atlantic, the internet pipes. This is no different than NSA's PRISM program, right? They're trying to intercept the communications so that they can decode them later, even when they're encrypted. This makes sense that they would go after these kind of things. It's back to 100 years ago, wiretapping. This is not new, but it is very important to be cognizant of. These methods are still happening. These methods are still being employed today. So, you have to be scared. Honestly, the bigger concern for me is how to identify when you have a compromised VPN. How to identify when they're getting the information. Right now, it could be as scary as when we're finding about those compromised TPM and compromised networking chips coming out of China that could at the base hardware level be sending data back to these threat actors. Once we learn to identify, it becomes not less of a concern, but less of a scare, right? The threat factor goes down a little bit, at least in my opinion. What about you, Tony?
You've opened up a treasure trove of things to talk about. I think the TPM authenticators are mandatory with Windows 11, and eventually taken out of Windows 11. That come pre-equipped with an isolated surveillance component, which is a feature. But that's a huge concern, and the fact that we all have these network devices in some degree, or Netgear. Who doesn't have a Netgear device? Now, is that publicly facing surface visible? I don't know. And that's what everyone has to try to figure out. But the best thing that you start off with is update your firmware, update your system to what it should be doing now. Being lackadaisical or complacent is allowing all of the news that we talk about every single week here at MSP Dispatch to take place is terrifying. That being said, there's quite a few things to talk about. Ray, what else are we talking about today?
Speaking of threat actors, Microsoft brings a new win to those on the forever quest to protect devices on your network. Microsoft Defender now isolates hacked, unmanaged Windows devices. Bleeping Computers article goes over the new feature for Microsoft Defender for Endpoints. This will apply to Windows Defender for Endpoint Plans 1 and 2, as well as Microsoft Defender for Business. Compromised systems once tagged, Microsoft Defender will advise managed devices to ignore traffic from those compromised systems, thus isolating it from spreading that whatever nastiness is on the device to other Windows managed devices. Now, the only Windows managed devices that are enrolled will be protected by Defender. This leaves other security cameras, other devices on the network. Obviously, they will continue receiving this malicious traffic. It will only work with Windows Defender. It will only work with Windows Desktop 10 and up, and only work with Windows Server 2019 and later. The article from Bleeping Computer gives instructions on how to onboard, and we will include the link in the show notes for Microsoft advising exactly what's affected and how it's affected. Tony, managing these, giving away to tag unmanaged devices or that are potentially compromised, it does protect those Windows devices that are enrolled, but I don't think this is nearly as effective as other methods of host isolation. Doing stuff like VLANs, doing stuff like managing all devices seems a better play. And I've heard there's a term we used to use back in the day to kind of describe this. It seems back-assward. I'd rather use, if it's a Windows device, be managed. What say you? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? What's your opinion here?
Well, I think Microsoft's doing exactly what Microsoft is known for doing, which is in a homogeneous environment where they have complete control over everything. They are doing it the way they would like to do it. Now, let's evolve this strategy for just a moment. Hypothetically, if they could allow this one singular isolated device or pinpointed device to not talk to anyone except they manufacture a single point. Now we have what's considered a honeypot. And the honeypot could, in theory, consume this traffic and identify not things from just a signature base, but not just from a heuristics base, but also an anomaly-based action where it can then process this data and then send it out to an additional repository where other devices can say, hey, if you notice these things, isolate it. This is what it is. In theory, and I'm just throwing that off the top of my head, the reality, what's occurring right now is that Microsoft is saying you are isolated to other Microsoft devices, but we are not shutting you down, which is kind of the typical MO of most security software or applications, and they completely silo and isolate that one particular device. You can talk to everyone. You can talk to everyone, but we're not going to listen. But what about the devices that don't have that ability? We just got done talking about, antiquated Netgear devices and Fortinet and Cisco that people haven't updated yet. There's still devices out there that don't respect VLAN numbering. So What about those devices, and how are they going to be affected? And in fact, doesn't that just allow a rampant spread of a known device that's been compromised to other devices that haven't caught up to the Microsoft standard? Is that going to become a standard? Just off the top of my head, there's so many directions that this could take place. I'm happy in some aspects, but Microsoft, again, is doing exactly what Microsoft is known to do, which is take control in the theme of they control everything and everyone plays by the Microsoft rules. Am I missing something, Ray? Give me your perspective.
So you're a preparer like me, right? I imagine like you go to my car, I have a tire inflator, I have a first aid kit, I have a decent tool bag in there. Like
They got
I'm
two
that
just
guy,
in case
right?
the other
Like
one breaks down.
right, like I have the jump starter, not even the cables. I have like the jump starter device that you can take to connect to the other car. Um, you know, I'm that guy. This to me reminds me of like you ever buy those first aid kits and you open it and it's just like three band-aids? It's like, in a real incident where like your arm is cut off, like that band-aid's not gonna help, and while I do appreciate having the band-aid for some things, and this to me is that band-aid, in this analogy, better practices would also solve these problems, right? If you have unmanaged devices, they should be on a separate VLAN or an isolated network, not communicating with managed devices. No different than your printers and your IoT devices. And they should, your unsecured network or whatever it is, your guest LAN. If you're following those practices, this shouldn't need to be a thing. You know what I mean? So while I appreciate the efforts of Microsoft, I absolutely do I have to imagine the people that are not isolating networks properly are also the people not paying extra for Microsoft Defender P1 and P2 or Microsoft Defender for Business, right? These are paid add-ons. So, my concern is they're not going to be configuring, I forget the new name of it, Windows Intune. I apologize. Um, but they're not going to be configuring these things. So, if they were, they would likely already be following these best practices. So while it's great, this is that I find this to be the people it would be helping would not be the people that would be using this, in my opinion, anyway. But we want to hear from you. I mean, am I completely off base? I would love to know from you guys in the chat and the MMN family. Hit us up in the comments. Tell me I'm completely off base. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me if you agree with me. I prefer the second one. And while you're at it, go ahead and like this video. If you don't like the video, like it twice. You know, but let us know or hit us up on socials. Speaking of those infected devices, uh, Tony, I'm hearing something about the infection rates of the ransomware effects. The stats are changing. Can you tell us about it?
Stats are changing. Ransomware attacks have dropped, and gangs are starting to attack each other and each other's victims. As reported again in ZDNet.com, researchers say that while ransomware attacks are dropping, shifts in gang activities have pivoted more attacks than ever to the finance sector. On Monday, cybersecurity firm Kela, that's KE-LA.com, published its ransomware victims and network access sales report, suggesting that the number of significant ransomware victims dropped by approximately 40% in Q1 of this year at 698, compared to Q4 of 2021 at 982. On average, the company recorded 232 ransomware attacks per month during this time period. A notable shift is Conti's place as the most prolific ransomware group out there, alongside of Lockbit, Hive, AlphaV, Black Cat, and Karakurt. Apologies. During the first few months of the year, Conti publicly pledged its support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Following the Russian-speaking group's declaration, in retaliation, an individual broke into the the Conti group's systems and leaked the Conti's malware code and internal chat logs, which is a treasure trove for research and defenders alike. Kela says that some gangs in the top of the list have been observed attacking each other, or at the very least, laying claim to the same victim. So, Ray, I have a ton of questions here. Is politics playing a role in the target victim. Is the term no honor among thieves being ignored here, or is this just a territory grab?
So, while it was mired in argument of whether it was good or bad, this reminds me a lot of what was it, Justice League? And if you haven't watched it, watch the Snyder Cut, so much better. But what was it? The bad guy, who has his minions that go after fear, reminds me that once he's starting to fear the Justice League, his minions start attacking him. Right? They're always looking for the juiciest target, and if the other threat actors are going to be the juiciest target, oh yeah, go for it. I'm all for distracting the bad guy by letting them go after themselves, right? Um, you know, hey, it's the kind of world where while you would think that they would work with each other um, to accomplish things, it doesn't surprise me in the least bit that they're going after each other when they can't find good targets. What surprises me more is that they can't find good enough targets that they're going after each other. Uh, that is
Isn't that
very
surprising? Are there
surprising
not
to me,
enough targets? I don't understand.
right?
I mean,
Yeah,
we talk about all the vulnerabilities 2 times a week that we're discovering out there, and for people to urgently patch as fast as possible so you don't get hacked in some capacity, which could result in ransomware. We talked about the results of ransomware just being so prolific and climbing every single month. It's terrifying, but now those rates are dropping substantially, and they're attacking each other, and they're laying claims to each other's victims. But I think the one common component is not only is Conti, which was the most popular of the ransomware groups, not only Conti getting bumped as the number one place, but they're being attacked, and they're being attacked immediately after the declaration of being pro-invasion for Russia. So I'm curious: is that going to be the new politicized hacking group mantra, where they try to figure out what is righter? Am I conjugating that right? What is righter than the other? Are they going to be viewed as the good ransomware group? I'm struggling with this one.
I mean, I don't think it's going to help anybody if they say, "Oh, well, we were hacked by the good guys, so they're the lesser of the bads," right?
Does your insurance go down if you're hacked by the
Right?
good guys and not the
Yeah.
pro-Russian invasion guys?
And that's what I would love to see. I mean, now that IR is a common play among, insurance companies when they're paying these things out, maybe we'll get Dustin Bolander or Reed Wellock. They've done other partner first with us from over at Fifth Wall. Being a distributor, they aggregate so much of the data from the different carriers. I would love to see if like there's any compiled data of in doing these IRs or incident responses, if they're determining who the threat actors are and seeing who are more accomplished than others. And the extent of the damage, a Conti attack, the average Conti attack is this amount, or the average whatever is this amount. Cybersecurity insurance was a huge, huge topic. It was multiple sessions at ITN Secure this week. And they were talking about the average event will cost over $1 million. So we'll see if we can get them on to discuss it, and we'll include a link below. But Tony, you have one of your notable stories about who the juiciest targets are. I'd definitely love to hear that.
A great notable mention in MediaPost.com is the United States. The United States is the most data breached country. I know that's an amazing surprise to everyone. An analyst of 15 billion data points found that more than 2/3 of accounts in the United States are leaked with passwords, putting breach users in danger of account takeover, according to Surfshark. The data point includes 8.7 billion last names, first names, internet protocol addresses, passwords, usernames, and other data that has been sold or leaked since 2004. It seems mind-boggling that when considering the US internet user since 2004 has lost 27 pieces of data on average to online breaches, most of them being email passwords and usernames. Another story that we should be talking about in depth, and the overall ramifications are proliferating into other news here at MSP Dispatch.
And in our community corner, we love to hear the feedback from all of you. We have Lost in the Sauce with which is an awesome name, giving us feedback on Reddit, saying exciting with 3 exclamation points. Believe it or not, I am more excited about this feedback than I sound. I just apologize. Conference voice, you know how that goes. But we appreciate the feedback. Hit us up in the comments, hit us up on Reddit, hit us up anywhere you find us. We're everywhere. Or shoot us an email, news@mspmedia.tv. We'd love to hear from you guys, good, bad, and otherwise. If we're, you want to see something different, let us know too. We definitely want to know. Speaking of community, Tony, we got events coming up. What's coming up this week?
So much activity. We've had the MSP Dispatch provided by us, yours truly, coming up on the 14th. On the 15th, we have the ASCII Summit in Southern California. Also on the 15th, the NSITSP Vendor Partner Program Introduction Call. Also on the 15th, the Partner First Protecting the MSP Community, Contemporary Lessons from the Field. And on the 17th, we have, of course, the MSP Dispatch provided by Ray and myself.
Sounds like a packed week coming up. I do love conference season. I do love all these events. They are my favorite thing in the world. So,
I miss it.
It's awesome. Until the next one, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Be safe. Take care of yourselves and each other.
And keep your voice intact.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.